It may not look like the front lines, but consider this. The Afghan government says in the past 5 years, 45,000 of its security forces have been killed.
Crime exists all over the world, and criminals are everywhere.
And crime is on the upswing in the capital of Kabul. This armed robbery netted thieves some $40,000 worth of equipment and cash from this phone store. But bring up insurgents, and the commander's bravado comes pouring out.
But we are controlling the assaults, the terrorist attacks, and keeping other criminal acts under control.
But for all his posturing, the war on terror is not going well here. National police and soldiers are losing ground to the Taliban in much of Afghanistan. Despite miles of razor wire, concrete blast walls, and lots of guns, insurgents control more than 50% of the country. Security is everywhere in the capital of Kabul, and the Afghan National Police are a constant presence throughout the country. One of their chief jobs here in Kabul is to man the so-called Ring of Steel to make sure that insurgents don't sneak into the heart of the city to unleash terror. Danger and constant threats are never far away from Kabul citizens. Even within the walled confines of their modest home, it's hard for Abdul Fattah and his 55-year-old wife, Hanifa, to ever feel safe.
They are working on making the security better, but we feel panicked, and we can't walk around the city and feel secure. We fear suicide bombers and are afraid.
This is why. Insurgents are slipping through the porous Ring of Steel. In May of 2017, a truck carrying hundreds of kilos of explosives went off outside the German embassy in Kabul, the single most deadly insurgent attack in the country. More than 400 were injured, more than 150 killed, including their son, who was driving a taxi that day.
We all heard the explosion. My son didn't return. After that, his father called his phone, but no one answered. We checked all the hospitals and everywhere, but couldn't find him.
They later learned their son and his taxi were simply vaporized in the blast. For Hanifa, it has been 2 years of tears. Abdul is sick, and the only work he does involves tending to the garden he's trying to nurture out of Kabul's unforgiving soil. Their daughter-in-law abandoned the family, leaving the grandparents to raise 3 children, now without a father and mother. Muhammad Salah is being robbed of his innocence, his childhood, and getting an education and a decent job will be difficult.
My grandsons are asking for things that we can't afford, and I tell them, how can we get it without money? We lost your father.
2018 saw the largest number of civilian deaths in Afghanistan in nearly a decade, and this year is starting off in a similar fashion. Former President Hamid Karzai says it is time for peace. You've been quoted as saying that the U.S.-Afghan partnership, relationship, has been a failure. Can you expand on that?
The U.S. came to Afghanistan to defeat extremism and to bring security. None of that happened. Rather, we lost thousands and thousands of lives.
And each life lost brings family destruction and heartbreak, a brutal 18-year epidemic.
When they make peace, they have to keep it and stop the war so people like us won't suffer the loss of their sons and are left in sorrow.
Left in sorrow and suddenly facing a bleak future, while the cycle of attempting to rein in violence continues. Sean Caleb, CGTN, Kabul, Afghanistan.